Hey everyone, so this is Elementary Season 7, Episode 1. I'm gonna go by location instead of by chronological order because I just feel like it's a little bit easier that way, considering that most of the episode consisted of Sherlock and Joan in London, and there was a little bit going on in New York. So basically, the case of the week is a tabloid model by the name of Lola Quinn, who, while walking down the street talking on the phone, she gets sulfuric acid thrown in her face. And so Sherlock and Joan get called in to work this case by a new character named Athelney Jones, um, who Joan, by the way, cannot stand because um, Athelney keeps calling Sherlock or keeps calling Joan Doc, and so Joan would just Athelney to call her by her name instead of Doc because that's not her name. She's not really. I mean, she still has her license, but she doesn't necessarily practice being a doctor every single day. She's a practicing detective, so she'd like to be called by her name. If she was actually a practicing doctor, then okay, maybe she would be more forgiving about that, but she's not. So, and I don't fault John for that. Like, come on now, like, call me by my fucking name. I have a name for a reason. Like, if I want to be called Doc, I change my name legally to call so that people can call me Doc. But I digress. Anyway, so um, after Lola Quinn gets moved to the hospital, this doctor by the name of um, what is his name? What is his name? His name is Garrett Halsey, and he's a plastic surgeon. Now, keep that in mind, folks, because later on in the episode, you'll know why he was distinguished as a um, plastic surgeon. So, this doctor tells Athelney, Sherlock, and Joan that Lola had lost her left eye, has significant burns on her face, and there is serious concern about infection. So, um, eventually, they find the moped that was used as the getaway car, and the purse that was stolen from her, along with her phone, um, elsewhere. And the handlebars of the moped were doused in sulfuric acid, along with the purse as well. So, um, they call Athelney to tell them what they think about everything. And that is when they find out from Althany that Athelney, sorry, not Althany, Athelney, sorry, I'm saying that wrong the entire time. Anyway, they find out from Athelney that Lola jumped down a elevator shaft, but personally, I think she was pushed because I mean, I guess I get what she's saying about, well, since Lola didn't have her looks anymore, um, that's why she took her own life and all that. But personally, I think she was pushed by Garrett. Damn, I gave it away. Anyway, I think she was pushed, um, and by Garrett, because Sherlock and Joan figure out via her social media that Lola had, for 2 weeks had been recycling old posts, meaning she would take old posts of hers and repost them on her social media. Um, and she had been increasingly doing that over the course of a couple weeks and months. And so Sherlock eventually finds out that one of her posts wasn't actually an old post, it was actually new, and realizes that the drink that she's holding in the picture is at this resort, spa, whatever, um, and tracks down this bartender, or as Sherlock calls him, a mixologist, by the name of Chip. And Chip explains to Sherlock that Lola had bandages on her face that were pretty uniform, I guess you could call them, and pretty straight. And they realized she had plastic surgery done, and Garrett Halsey had done that plastic surgery. But the thing was, the reason she had plastic surgery was to get the bags under her eyes removed. But what happened was Garrett gave her a rhinoplasty, meaning he sucked out, I guess, the cartilage in her nose, and to make it smaller and all that, by mistake. And so when Lola, I don't exactly remember if Lola had realized it by this point, or if he was just doing it as a preventative measure, um, or if it was both. But if Lola had actually gone to the authorities and gone to the medical board, she would have sued him, and his not only would have his not only would he have had to pay, because it was clear that she wanted one surgery when he gave her another, but his reputation would have been tarnished. So threw um, he threw sulfuric acid on her face to cover up the fact that he did the wrong surgery. Um, and while initially Lola wouldn't have realized what had happened, she would have known. She would eventually figure it out. And the reason why she wouldn't have known so quickly was because of the fact that, according to Joan, the two surgeries that were mentioned in the episode, they cause pain around her, underneath her eyes and around her nose and all that, and basically anywhere that she would have been feeling pain on her face, um, could have been associated with either of those surgeries. And so she wouldn't have realized, once waking up from her anesthesia, that um, he had done the wrong surgery until after she had gone home and all that. So basically, that is the case of the week. But a little bit more about what's going on in London. Joan isn't happy in London, and Kitty realizes that she isn't happy, tries to bring it up to Sherlock, and then Sherlock ends up bringing it up to Joan. And Joan eventually says, well, I may not be happy right now, but I mean, she basically says she'll get over it, even if it's not quickly. Um, so she she expresses to Sherlock that she just needs some time uh, to keep getting settled in London and all that. So switching over to New York, Marcus is about to leave to go to the Marshals. He has like a few days left until he's gonna be starting his new job with the U.S. Marshals. So he goes to Captain Gregson, and he tells Gregson, you know what, I need you to reach out to Sherlock and Joan, because I want everything patched up, um, before I leave, because every time anyone mentions Sherlock or Joan, it's like nails on a chalkboard. You tense up, you just start acting all weird after someone mentions their name, and I would rather you patch things up and not have everything be awkward than everything be awkward. So, and the reason why he's saying this is because he realized that when Sherlock had confessed to Michael Rowan's murder, uh, he thought that the captain was angry like he was at first that Sherlock had confessed to Michael's murder when Joan clearly didn't do it, and neither did he. Um, but it was actually guilt that um, Gregson was feeling, because um, he had covered up the fact that um, that Hannah had killed Michael, and he didn't like. He felt guilt for Charlotte taking the rap for it, and now he can't step back in the EOS without being prosecuted for that murder. So he's like, please just make things right. And so Gregson eventually um, decides to do it, but before Gregson can do it, he gets shot, and he calls um, Sherlock and Joan to tell them that he has been shot. They don't know by who or for why, just that he was. Um, and the doctors do not think that he will make it. So for the promo of episode 2, we see Sherlock and Joan go back to New York City to investigate what happened to Gregson. And Sherlock is concerned that the FBI will find out that he's back in the U.S. So she's concerned about that. On it, and so is what I think of the overall episode. I think it was pretty decent, considering that it was a series, well, not a series premiere. It's a series finale premiere. I think it was decent for that. The case of the week was just okay. It wasn't great. I think it could have been better. Um, so um, I'm excited for them to go back to New York. I don't know if they'll stay, um, but I do think that what will happen is um, Hannah will somehow manage to confess and get Sherlock off the hook. And um, what's her name? The FBI agent, she will not like that at all. In fact, she'll probably end up trying to um, get Sherlock and or Joan on um, some other uh, crime that she thinks they did. So I can see how that would manifest, because she seemed pretty gung ho to get Joan when she didn't do it. So yeah, I like to see them back in New York full time. So I don't know if Anthony will continue being like a recurring character or a main character or what. Um, since this was only the first episode, we haven't really seen her all that much, so I don't know. I can't really say I hate her or I like her either. So excuse me. So I don't know how I feel about her at this point. I'm just I don't love her, but I don't hate her either. I just don't care. I just am neutral. So, um, we'll see. Um, and as far as I know, Aiden Quinn is supposed to continue in this season, so I don't think he will die. If he does, I can see how that will maybe spur um, Hannah to confess, maybe, perhaps. I don't know. But we'll see. We'll see how the rest of as the season keeps going. We'll see how everything turns out and all that. I think eventually they will stay in New York. Um, Eventually, even though Sherlock did say that he would like to stay in London since London is his home and all that. Um, so I think they'll eventually stay in New York, but we'll see. Until next time, guys, I will see you guys later. Bye.